Welcome back, everybody, to A Cast of the Past, where best friends get together to discuss the best video games of 2020 and not 2020. I'm your host, Josh.
And I am still Tom.
Still Tom, after all this time, after 364 days of just brutalness, you're still Tom.
Yep, unfortunately, I just can't stop being me. This is our first live episode of the podcast. If you're a regular viewer and you're here on your Sunday night at 8 o'clock, you're probably expecting, hey, listen, our weekly gaming news show. But yeah, tonight we wanted to get our best of 2020 list out, so we figured we've got to just do it right now, right here. So
we're giving the people what they want.
Yeah, so this will be different, but here's how it's going to work. We're going to talk about a total of 20 games tonight. The first 10 that we're going to discuss, we're going to bounce back and forth. They're going to be the best games from outside of 2020 that Josh and I played this year. And given that we were on lockdown for most of the year, we had chances to play a lot of games. So we're going to bounce back and forth our list of retro classics, discuss what we liked, and maybe Josh and I will both shock each other with, recommendations. And then the big honcho, what I'm sure you're all here for, after we get rid of our old games, it's time to talk about the games from this year. We're going to each do our top 5 of the year, round it off. And yeah, like I said, we usually travel back in time for, episodes of the show, but we're right here in the present. Got to talk about what we've enjoyed in this horrible year. So Josh, let's not waste any more time. Please tell me, what's the first, older-ish game that you enjoyed this year?
Game number 5. On my list, worst game of 2020 is Crash. No, it is not, Gushal. That is the worst take that you can ever have. I am sorry. You made me read that out loud, and it hurt my feelings.
Gushal kicking us off in rare form. I love it. I love it. But Josh, please get me back to where you were going with that. What was the first
number 5 for games of not this year? Star Fox 64.
Oh, that's so great.
It is shocking, I know. It is an N64 game that has made my list. And yes, it was very enjoyable. Was it frustrating at times? Yes. Was it scary at times? Yes. Was it fun to play and still go back and play? Absolutely. It controlled like slicing through butter. So smooth. So simple. It was so nice. I enjoyed my time with Star Fox 64. And if you haven't played it, you should too.
I think this might be my proudest accomplishment of the year, is that I got Josh to enjoy an N64 game. But yes, Star Fox 64, which we played because one of our donors to our Extra Life charity stream pitched in at the $100 level and said, you guys should play that. And we did. It's one of the episodes of the podcast you can catch if you check us out on YouTube or any platform that podcasts are on, but we'll shill more about that later. But yes, Star Fox 64, a beloved game from my childhood that I was very happy to see Josh try for the first time. And we talked, just talked a lot about how just fun, and it's one of those examples of something simple, handled really well, executed, in just the best kind of manner. And I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. If you're in the chat and if you're a fan of Star Fox 64, I would hope that you would share some of your love in the chat. And just beyond that, Josh, is this a game you could see yourself playing, into the future?
Yeah, after us talking about it in the episode and going back, trying to figure out alternative ways to unlock the rest of the paths, it is a game that I do want to venture back into to try to get that completion style to the game. So I would definitely go back.
It's a very good completionist game, Josh. And like I said, I know that you're all about that. So I figured that'd be something to encourage you. All right. Well, let's move right on. My number 5 is a little interesting. Let me explain. So I played 2 3D platformers this year. A Hat in Time, which I played on this Twitch channel. You can probably catch some of the broadcasts. I don't believe they've all gone away. And I played New Super Lucky's Tale. So I'm a big fan of 3D platformers. It's well known in this podcast. Our most recent episode on Super Mario 64, I'm the one defending it while Josh is poo-pooing all over it. We did an episode earlier this year on Banjo-Kazooie. It's a seminal game for me. Gotta represent Rare. But I these are 2 games that I was eager to try out because they're games that were trying to rebirth that genre, the 3D platforming collectathon kind of vibe. And I could say that they're both kind of 3.5 out of 5-star experiences. They, in their own unique ways, do a good job of like capturing the thrill of the mechanics, and they each have their own flaws despite that. But I think that I enjoyed both of them, and they were pretty good ways of updating the concept. So I do want to say that.
Would you consider now, since playing those two, going back and giving Super Lucky's Tale, not Super Lucky's Tale, Ukulele, a second playthrough or second chance?
Only if we did it for the show.
Okay.
I can't see myself willingly doing Ukulele. Like, the thing about Ukulele is that I felt its mechanics were too sloppy, which is surprising from the developers it came from. And like, the flaws I was talking about between A Hat in Time and New Super Lucky's Tale. Like, New Super Lucky's Tale, I feel like it played a lot better and it handled a lot more smoothly. It's just that it wasn't a complete 3D platforming game. It was a mix of like 3D exploration platforming and then 2.5D, levels, and then isometric 2.5D nonstop runner platforms. So New Super Lucky didn't commit 100% to it. New Super Lucky also made the mistake of having too much lore.
Okay.
Like, what I loved about Banjo-Kazooie is its effortless simplicity. There's no explanation about why this bear and bird can talk, why they live next door to a witch. It just is what it is, and you launch into the adventure, as Josh drinks from his platinum gaming mug. But in New Super Lucky's Tale, there's like this really convoluted fantasy animal lore backstory. Lucky is the descendant of a team of guardians of sacred lore, and there was a wizard, and just like, I don't need all this.
Okay.
And they pepper it in, and it's too much. Whereas A Hat in Time, again, it's that simplicity. A little kid pilots a spaceship, and she has magic hats, and she lands on a mafia planet, and they steal her hourglasses that power her spaceship, and she has to get them back. And just go. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So they all suffer in their own ways. I think A Hat in Time, the thing you complained about with Mario 64, you complained and said it had kind of loose, buttery, smooth, like, platforming that wasn't too precise.
Slippery. Yeah.
Slippery, that's the word. I felt some of that in A Hat in Time. There was some frustrating moments where I was like, ugh. And then another just knock against Hat in Time is that I felt like its bosses were disproportionately hard compared to some of the rest of the game, especially later. It was just like, wow, like, this is too intense. And then the final boss is a little too easy. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
But that Hat in Time / New Super Lucky's Tale, an interesting duology of games that I experienced this year.
All right. Okay. My number 4 is a series of games that I never expected to love.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the third release, well, technically fourth if you count it, but third release in a trilogy. And that is Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 improved on everything that the first game did. The second game was released, but Dark Souls 3 improved on everything of the first game. It kind of continued the story a little bit. You got to go back to different places of the first game as well, without spoiling any what place if you haven't played it already. It is just so enjoyable. It is challenging. It is difficult. It is fun. The lore to it is crazy and so in depth, and the story is great to it. The end boss, a little too difficult to the point where I almost gave up on the game, but I was like, no, I'm a man who beat Cuphead. I'm a man who beat Battletoads.
You have a shirt that says so.
I can beat Dark Souls 3. No, Dark Souls 3, the end boss is the Lord of Cinder, I believe his name was. He's pretty much the Lord of the First Light or whatever. Like, he was just a super ridiculously hard knight. And man, was it was it difficult. But I didn't do any of the DLC to it. I should go back and do it, but I want to go do another replay of the game just to kind of go through New Game Plus to be a little bit more beefier going into the end stuff. But Dark Souls 3, I think, improved on everything that the other two games did. And man, is it pretty still for how little bit of it's a little aged, but it's so pretty.
Okay.
But yeah, number 4, Dark Souls 3.
Nice. Yeah, I know that you very heavily got into the Soulsborne games during lockdown this year at the encouragement of, great friend of the show, Guchal. he was pushing you all those years to try him out, and you finally jumped headfirst into all the Soulsborne experience. And it's a genre of games I haven't dipped my toes into
Yet.
extensively, but who knows? Maybe this year, maybe there'll be something on the horizon. We'll have to see. But no, I'm glad you enjoyed those all the same.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is a PC game that I played a lot in lockdown, and humorously enough, it's almost like I replaced my inability to work with a virtual job. So I want to talk about Papers, Please.
Oh, okay.
A
A Vita game.
Huh?
It's a Vita game. Oh, wait, hold on.
It was.
Hold on.
It's extensive. It's
Hold
not
on a
exclusive.
second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. We froze up there for a second.
I'm here.
Okay. I just wanted to say,
okay.
It's a Vita game.
Well, it lived on the PC first, and it is a game where you play a checkpoint kind of bureaucrat at the entry of a fictional Eastern European Slavic country during the Cold War. And you have to admit people into the country, but you have to make sure they have all the right documents and everything. And I know that sounds very boring, but the game has some interesting mechanics that build story and like the world without just like pouring it on you. At the end of every day, your character gets paid based on how well they did their job. And then you see your paycheck get, knocked down. It's like, oh, I have to pay for my family's rent. I have to pay for the food. My son's sick. I have to pay for his medicine. I didn't make enough money today. I guess I can't pay for the heating bill. So we're going to freeze. And then if my family freezes within another 2 days, my wife could be sick. And then I have to have money for medicine, And there's interesting things built into the game around that. You can accept bribes from people, or you can make deals with some of the patrol guards, and it's like, I'll give you $5 for every person you incriminate. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It'll make my numbers look good. So it's this really great human drama built around the kind of tedium of the workday, and the decisions you make with each individual play into some really interesting storytelling.
So
and
it's like an ethics simulator.
It kind of is, yeah. And some really interesting characters come through. There's this, this homeless man who kind of he comes through on the first day with like a passport that's clearly drawn on cardboard paper with crayon. And it's like, get out of here. And he's like, okay, I come back with better passport tomorrow. And then the next day he comes back with one that's like a little better. And then by like, a month into the storyline, he's like passing off some pretty good fakes. And it's just like, where are you getting this? You don't seem like you are that well put together. Like, what are you doing? And that's just one of the characters. There's a lot of good stuff in Papers, Please. It makes you think, it makes you feel, and you can lose hours to it. Trust me,
okay.
I did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number three. The second most popular streams that we do on Twitch, right? Super Mario 35. And do I put Super Mario 35 in the games of not this year? Yes. Because what is the tagline to our podcast, Tom? We take a look at old video games in a new light. And that's exactly what Mario 35 is. It's an old video game in a new light, right? And
yes, it very much is, undeniably.
I loved this game. I didn't think that I was going to enjoy the struggle that this game brought in. Like, I thought it was just going to be a quick cash grab on what Mario is. And I know, for instance, Gutshaw itself in the chat was hooked on playing Mario 35 to the point where he was taking like pointers from what I was doing in the game, and I was going through and giving tips and tricks as I was playing through. And I haven't felt this good at a game or accomplished in a game since I played Rock Band. And the 20-ish plus 30, almost, like, I don't know how many victories that I have right now, but I have a lot, right? And it's to the point where I could just sit down, play through for 5-10 minutes, boom, got another victory, boom, got another victory, boom, boom, boom. Like, I was S rank for so long. I was in the top 1,000 players at one point in time. Like, I absolutely loved this game. And it was like, oh, here we go. Lakitu parties. We got the Hammer Bros and the Hammer Bras out there. Like, we had so many fun things that came from that game. And we had so much fun in the chat and going on with it. And man, like, Mario 35 Super Mario Brothers is one of the greatest games of all time. We can undeniably agree with that one, right? It's the game that saved video games.
I would never dispute that. No, I'd be a fool to dispute that.
Right. So it is amazing. It's awesome, but it's only number 3. And that's shocking. What games could be better than Mario 35?
I do want to say that I'm a little conflicted about whether I should allow this, because while it is kind of Mario 35, it also very pointedly is not, because it's a remix. You know, it's like saying, I don't know, it's like asking if Jimi Hendrix's cover of All Along the Watchtower should be the best song of whatever the year that Bob Dylan's version came out. You know, it's a spin on it, but is it really the same game? But I won't deny, yo, what up, Dr. Lover? Welcome to the Best of 2020 show. So yeah, I wouldn't dispute that it's good. I kind of expected it to be in your top 5 games of 2020, but in terms of older games that you played for the first time this year, I'm just surprised to see it. But whatever, it's your list. It's your list. I'm going to do something later that I'm pretty sure will upset you with my list. So,
so what's your number 3 then?
My number 3, the third older game from outside of 2020 that I played in 2020, is PT. The playable teaser for the canceled game Silent Hills. Now, did I play the original version of this? No, unfortunately, you can't get a PS4 that has it on it unless you already have it. But, you know, we got a version and played it for an episode we did on the game, and it's one of the most unique gaming experiences I've had in a while because of how immersive it is. I think its first-person design is handled really well. I think in terms of sound design, it's incredible. You know, you play this with headphones on and you are going to get creeped out, is all I can say about that. You know, this is a game that hides its character development and world building very well in the level and lets you find it bit by bit. And it just creeps the hell out of you. Like, this is a game that is spooky with a capital S.
Yeah, if you want to hear a lot of in-depth analysis and talking about this, definitely check out our episode of PT, because it is a really good one. It's a very spooky one, and it was a great way to end the month of spooky games.
So PT, very much enjoyed it. Josh, I would assume you feel the same. I hope PT's not on your list, and I'm not going to make you talk about it early.
PT is not on my list because there's better games out there than PT.
Well, I wouldn't dispute that there are better games out there, but just in terms of, experiences with games that I had.
Yeah. Number 2 is a game that I started playing back in January. So right after our last episode, our games of the year 2019, I started playing this game and I fell in love with this game. And this game has followed me wherever I go. Because 1, this game is available on iOS devices. 2, this game is available on the Nintendo Switch, so it is 100% portable. 3, this game has one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, number 2 on my list, Sayonara Wild Hearts. It is a wonderful rhythm-based tactical puzzle kind of game, and it is a great story. Some of the most amazing music that you can hear in a game. It was nominated last year for best soundtrack in a video game. So what does that say? What does that say? Like,
it says it must be good.
It must be good. That the music is so damn good, and it's just so enjoyable. I love it. It is stunning. The visuals are great, but I mean, everyone I recommend this soundtrack to, everyone's like, "Oh man, this as the kids say, is lit."
You're not exactly.
No,
you're pulling a how do you do, fellow kids right now. But
throw your arms off to the side and smell your armpits. Am I right, kids? Yet
they don't dab. They don't dab. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you mispronouncing ye? I see what you're doing. Okay. Well, anyway, before Josh gets too much further into cringe territory, I just want to say you showed me the soundtrack when we were able to hang out at some point in the year before everything closed down, and it has an incredible soundtrack. I won't deny that. I have not gotten to play it yet, but it is on sale on the Nintendo eShop right now. On the eShop right now for like $8, and I'm pretty sure it's on sale for the Steam Winter sale right now. So it's definitely worth picking up, I think, based on the soundtrack alone. Like, I'm interested to get into this, and if I find out that the gameplay's terrible, at least I can bop my head to the music in this game. So
no, yeah, it's really good. And the nice thing is too, there's modes in it too where you can just play through the game and just listen to the music as you're playing the game and stuff like that. It's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
It's fun.
Okay.
And if you have iOS devices, any Apple devices, it's on Apple Arcade, so it's included free with your Apple Arcade. So that's a nice little added perk too.
What if you have a real phone?
If like an iPhone?
No, I mean like, an actual good phone.
Like an iPhone?
All right. Josh ain't taking the bait.
What's your number two, Tom?
Josh baits you all the time, but when you bait him, he's like, oh, not doing it. So anyway, number 2, my second favorite retro game of this year was a game that hello, welcome to the stream, and that game's called Shovel Knight, and I'm sure you're pleased as punch to hear that. Shovel Knight was fantastic in terms of just fast-paced retro platforming, the art style, the soundtrack, the characters, the world. So delightful, so fun, the right amount of both touching and funny, the right amount of taking it seriously, but also just, being very tongue-in-cheek with what they're doing. It's well-composed levels, a nice balance of challenge. This was not a ridiculously stupid game. As we said in the episode that we did on it, this is classic Mega Man actually done right, because classic Mega Man, in retrospect, is kind of bullshit. But I won't go into too much more detail because this is not an episode where we want to go off the rails. I just will say Shovel Knight, worth playing. It's DLC, just as fun, and absolutely worth it. And Josh, how much do I have to ask you about your thoughts on it?
I'm just going to say, I mean, if everyone knows me, they know Shovel Knight was my favorite game of all time. It has now been dethroned, and that is now sitting at number 2, which is a very respected number 2.
Hey, if you're not first, you're last. I mean, that's just...
Well, it's really hard to topple over Celeste. That's just a really hard thing to do. But Shovel Knight, fantastic, amazing. Go listen to our episode once again on it. All right. What else can I say?
Well, Josh, what is the best game from outside of 2020 that you enjoyed this year? What's number 1?
This pick is going to make one person in our chat ridiculously happy. This is a game that I played and beat not 1, not 2, but 3 times in a month period because I just couldn't put it down. And ladies and gentlemen, my number 1 favorite game of not 2020 is Bloodborne. Bloodborne, the spookiest game, the hardest, not even the hardest. It's just so action packed. It's so crazy. It's so awesome. The world of Yharnam is so amazing. The characters are so great and deep, and the lore is fantastic. Bloodborne is a game that I am surprised that I never continued on with. I've tried it so many times and can never get into it. And after I started my trek through the Souls games, after I beat Dark Souls 3, I was like, I need to play Bloodborne. And I started up Bloodborne and I understood how to play the game. I understood I knew the world. I was like, I got this. I am a master at this game. And it is amazing. And platinumed it. That's all I can say. It's because it is such a great game. I'm sorry. It's just really hard for me to say that it's anything but a great game. But I will tell you right now, Tom, it is the best PlayStation 4 game made. And it is available on the PlayStation 4 Hits, which if you get a PlayStation 5 and get your PlayStation Plus account, you can download it for free.
That's bold. I'll just say that you're going to say it's the best PS4 game. Maybe I'll find out soon. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We'll
But
see.
winky, winky. But right, okay. I have nothing to say on it except I'm very happy that that game got you through 2020. That's so cool, and I'm very happy. I'm sure Guchal is dancing right now. He's also going off about DLC in the chat because classic Guchal.
Yeah, we got Guchal, we got Broken Flower also agreeing that Bloodborne is so good. Yeah.
Got some fans in the chat. All right, all right. Well, just as you knew that you were going to target a specific someone in the chat, I know another friend of the show is going to really appreciate what my number one is because they got me into this game. My number one older game from this year is a grand strategy game called Stellaris.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know if you're familiar with it, Josh. But...
I am familiar with it. I don't know too much about it, but I've heard the name before. And I think I have it on one of my systems somewhere for free. I got it.
There's a console version available on Xbox Game Pass, but don't play the console version. I just want to say that. Let's talk about the PC version of Stellaris, which I said it's called a grand strategy game. And this was a game where hours of my life passed, and I was like, whoa. It's a galactic empire, I guess kind of like building and management game. And before that, everyone unsubscribes and runs away. What I mean is you start on your planet with kind of the species and the government style that you select, and then you just spread out. You spread to neighboring planets and you conquer them and you add them to your, kind of galactic federation or your galactic empire, however you choose to rule. And then, the further you expand, boom, you bump into a galaxy that's already ruled by an alien race. And then it's like decision-making time. It's like, do you want to be friends with them? Do you want to be enemies with them? Do they want to be friends or enemies with you based on how you already act? And you go bigger and bigger. You bump into their neighbors. You bump into people from across the galaxy. You start mines on planets that you've colonized. You have to manage your citizens back on your home planet. It's not just the big picture. It's also the small stuff. Are your citizens starving? Do they have enough jobs? Because if your home planet and the other planets start collapsing, everything you've worked towards starts collapsing. Oh no, your neighbor has just declared war on you. Now you got to go to war. Do you have a good enough army? Do you have a good enough citizenry to go to war without everything collapsing on you? You didn't give them enough food, so now they're not willing to fight for you, right? It's a game where like everything can hang on decision to decision moments, and it is so absorbing. It's got like one of the best kind of like synth wavy, just I don't know. It's like its soundtrack is just kind of pure vibes. Like seriously, like it's just these moods that play out on both like orchestral and synthesized kind of waves. And that's what kind of sucked me into, is just like I get into the music, and before I know it, I've played for like 3 hours and everything. But yeah, Stellaris was for me an incredible part of this year. It was I feel like a lot of the best games I played this year were just things that really invested my time in ways that, like being stuck inside at the house, I needed that. So
it's weird to hear you talk about, because I've never heard you talk about this at all this entire year that we've been in communication with each other. This is the
probably
because
I've been too busy. I've probably been too busy playing it.
Okay, all right.
The thing about Stellaris, though, about the console version, I just want to say is that apparently this has gone through several major like kind of shifts in how the game plays. Like they've reformatted most of the basic core mechanics at least 2 times. And the console version is like still Stellaris 1.0, whereas what the PC is doing right now is Stellaris 3.0. So that's the big difference, where I would say if you were to dip into the console experience, I don't know if you would enjoy it as much as I'm hyped right now.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I like that. So that was our top 5 of each of us for the games of not 2020. Yes. Now we are getting ready to go into our main attraction, the grand finale, the top 5 games of 2020. What games in a horrible year came out on top and made this year actually enjoyable, right? Was it games like Cyberpunk? Was it games like Fall Guys? Was it games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2? We don't know.
But we're going to find out.
We are going to find out.
It's time for your main event. So, Josh, since you kicked out the last list, do you care if I take this one?
Come on, Tom. Tell me what your number 5 is. That's what I want to know. I want to know.
All right. So, Oh, we already got somebody clamoring for a choice, but we'll see. My number 5. This is a a quite small indie game. I feel like I don't see enough people talking about it, but it is charming. I'm talking about a game called Takeshi and Hiroshi. This was an Apple Arcade game that eventually got ported to the Nintendo Switch. It was a part of the first Nintendo Switch Indie Showcase from earlier this year, and it was developed by Oink Games Incorporated. Now, what is this game? It is part visual novel, part build your own RPG. And it tells the story of two brothers. The older brother is Takeshi. He's like a middle schooler who's really into game design. He's coding his own games in his free time. He wants to be a great video game developer when he grows up. And he has a little brother named Hiroshi who, looks up to Takeshi. He's Takeshi's biggest fan, and he loves trying out his games. So the kind of core gimmick of the game is that Takeshi is designing an RPG for Hiroshi, but he's kind of designing it like one day at a time. So he'll give this all the story of this game plays out in these clay animation cutscenes, which are really well done. And so like Takeshi finishes what he's been working on for the game, and he gives it to his little brother, and then it goes into the gameplay mode. And what you're doing is you're controlling the monsters and the traps that Hiroshi is encountering as he plays the game. So Hiroshi will like charge into battle, and it's like you have to decide what monsters to put in front of him. And the thing is, if you make the game too hard, Hiroshi will like lose excitement and interest, and he won't want to play, and then it's game over. Because if your biggest fan doesn't want to play your game, then what's the point? So you've got to balance gameplay, because also if it's too easy, he can lose interest. So you've got to give him the right amount of challenge, and it scales and evolves as the story goes on. Because you kind of find out that Hiroshi's sick, and Hiroshi's taken a lot of trips to the hospital, and Takeshi realizes that this game is like kind of the thing that cheers his little brother up day to day. So every day, you bring him the game, but it's like, oh, now the challenge scale is different. You've got to make sure that he stays interested. And it goes on, and there's a lot of really, heartwarming and human moments in this game. And it's not very long. I honestly think the one thing I'll say against it, maybe why it's only my number 5, is that it's possibly too short. I really wanted more. I hope maybe there's going to be some like free DLC to extend it. But this is a very charming and just well-written game with a great central concept. Like, I had a lot of fun kind of making the decisions that kept the game going, basically. And I would recommend it to anybody. As I said earlier, it's available on Apple Arcade and on the Nintendo eShop.
Interesting. It is a very interesting story from what you're saying. Like, you said it's available on Apple Arcade. I might have to get Apple Arcade. I got my phone, and they gave me like 6 months of it for free. I should just do it. Just to play.
Dive through it. See what they got.
Just to try it. See what's out there. Yeah. Oh. So, my number 5, though. Yeah, yes. My number 5. My number 5.
Cinco de Josho.
So this is where Mario 35 would have been on my list. And I removed it. Okay. Right. And I removed it for a $500 tech demo, I guess you could call it. And that is Astro's Playroom on the PlayStation 5.
Very, very well described. All right. Yes.
It is a $500 tech demo. It's a game worth $500, I guess, because it comes with the console, right?
Right.
It is a PlayStation's fans' wet dream. And that's the perfect way that I can sum up what this game is. It gives you an idea of what this haptic controller can actually do. Once you finally get I would say receive, but once you finally get a PlayStation 5, you will finally understand how just the future is here in gaming. Like, I'm not talking graphically, I'm talking about immersion in a game, and just what you can do with the controller and what the controller makes you do. It is wonderful. The Astro is probably going to be PlayStation's newest mascot. It's going to be their mascot. He's adorable. He is lovable. He is great. And I can't believe that I fell in love with a tech demo. Like, okay. I guess it's like falling in love with a stripper, right? Like,
Uh,
You
I
have
don't
to
think
pay.
that's a,
You have to pay
I don't think
to
that's
be
a
in love
great
with the game.
analogy.
You have to pay $500 to be in love with this game.
Oh, you're implying that Astro doesn't give you anything in return and just kind of makes you feel bad after you're done with it. But anyway,
It gives you a museum of PlayStation
Josh, do you
artifacts.
even know what strippers do or how they work? Because I don't think you do. They don't take you to museums.
Oh,
You're not going to the Smithsonian, Josh.
I wish that was a T-shirt. Do you even know what strippers do?
That's one of our new bits on the show. There we go. Come on, Josh, keep this safe from work. What are you doing? But no, I have seen a lot of gameplay chunks and other unique things from Astro's Playroom. They oh they this chat's distracting me. I have seen a lot of interesting bits from the gameplay I have seen. I've seen a couple of the secrets and Easter eggs they've hidden within the world. You know, like a lot of the classic PlayStation games that you can find references to. And yeah, I would agree that like from what I've seen, it is a love letter to PlayStation fans. And if $500 is what you want, then go ahead and get that love letter. That's all I could say.
Tom, tell me your number 4.
Well, my number 4, this is where Josh yells at me. Get ready for Josh to yell at me because my number 4, the 4th best game of 2020, is Among Us. A game from 2018. He's rubbing his eyes. So, I don't care that this game came out 2 years ago. I think it is.
My favorite game of this year was a game that came out 2 years ago.
I didn't say favorite. I said 4th favorite. All right, listen. It may have debuted in 2018, but this is arguably like one of the games that defined 2020. And I have had a number of just great experiences with friends and family playing this in quarantine. It's a great way to connect with people, to have fun, to get creative. You know, you got to get inventive. If you're the imposter, you have got to put work into hiding and covering your tracks and, you know, acting like you're not the horrible murderer when you are the horrible murderer. It's all the fun of a party game without the health risking party. You know what I mean? And Tom making his own rules. Yeah, this is my list. Exactly, this is my list. So I'm gonna do what I want.
I'm surprised you're not gonna pick Mario 64 as your number 1 now, since that technically came out this year.
I would never do that. That's not what I mean. Like,
I get it.
Arguably one of my favorite films of the year. Sound of Metal. It's on Amazon Prime. It's an incredible movie. You want to get technical? It debuted at the 2019 Toronto International Film Festival, but it didn't come out wide release for everyone to see it and play it until see it and watch it until 2020. So I think there's flexibility that's important, and I think Among Us might set a new standard for that. You know, like if a game falls in a forest and nobody hears it, did the game really get released? No, but everyone heard it in 2020, and I think it made the best kind of impact. Josh, what do you think about this choice that has clearly infuriated you?
No, it's not. I'm not as upset as you would think I am. I get it. It was just nominated for a whole bunch of awards at the Game Awards, right?
Yeah.
It's a game that came out. It wasn't really, it's kind of like PUBG. You know what I mean? PUBG comes out. It's not really, it's still in beta. It's not the full release of a game and then boom. And then it gets released and then it's Game of the Year award and all that kind of stuff. It has its place in history, and it was something to get people to get together during a time where people really needed to get together. Right. But also for a game for people to turn against each other, which is right now a time for people not to turn against each other. But
it's a heel turn simulator. That's the beauty of it. I can turn on people, but not actually have to go out in the real world and actually be a jerk who turns on people. You know, I can get all my badness out of me by playing.
So what you're
Among
saying
Us.
is the imposter is the person not wearing a mask and all the regular crewmates are people wearing masks.
Exactly. If everyone who wanted to start a fight over masks just played Among Us, they would be much more chill in public and be like, oh, I'll put it on. I got all my negative energy out. I got all my toxicity out, you know.
Okay.
So Josh, hit me up with your number. Your number 4.
Your
number 4, yes.
Yeah. Number 4 is, I think, out of the time of us streaming on Twitch, number 4 is the game that I think is the most popular streams that I've done. And that is Sackboy's A Big Adventure. Sackboy, the lovable mascot from the Little Big Planet series, coming into his own Super Mario 3D World style game, giving you some isometric platforming mixed with some side-scrolling platforming. Lovable character, Sackboy, memorable levels, some of the best music levels in the game, rivaling Rayman Legends, I would say. I mean, there was a there was a stream that we did where there was a Britney Spears song that came in the middle of one of the level, and we all lost our minds during it. And it was so
the best Britney Spears song. Let's just be clear. There are no other Britney songs beyond that one.
We get it. Hey, how do you know what it can't? Sackboy came out on a PlayStation 4. I'm just saying.
Josh rubbing it in everyone's face that he was able to get one. We get it. He's filling his top 5. His top 5. Oh god, if they're all PS5 games, I might actually just drop out.
No, but Sackboy is wonderful. It is great. It is a game that almost broke me too. And if you guys watched me, I know Gootshaw in the chat here watched me do the Rip Snorter. 8.5 hours of trying to do one challenge, and then the final time of me getting it and it's sinking in. Like, we have it up on our YouTube channel, we have it in our highlights. Definitely go watch it. It is an 11-minute stress fest of me finally completing the Rip Snorter. And man, after, I never felt more accomplished and defeated at the same time playing a game. But Sackboy, once again, another game platinum approved.
All right. Yes, I did watch you play this game for many hours on the Twitch channel because I didn't have a PS5 of my own, so I was living vicariously through you. But yes, it seemed fun. Although I kind of like derivatively when I saw it, I was like, oh, it's Mario 3D World. But it looks like it had its own unique spins on it.
I will say one other thing too. My wife. Was playing with me, and she was enjoying it as well. So, and she doesn't like platforming games.
If producer Becca enjoyed it, then I guess I can't say any negative things against it because that just makes it, infallible. I will just say this real quick. I've come to just feel that I think it's really weird that Sackboy makes human child noises. Like,
yeah, he's like a little kid. Yeah.
His I don't know. Like, I see a character like that, and I expect some kind of like cartoonish animated voice, like a ooh or something, and then you just hear generic kid yelps. It's kind of weird. I don't know, especially like when he's taking damage and stuff, and it's just cries of a child in pain. I don't know. I don't think it was the right choice for that. But
he's a boy, Sack Boy.
He's not a sack child. He's I don't know.
He's a boy. Anyway.
Well, not a real boy. He's like some Pinocchio crap.
What's your number 4, Tom?
Number 3, you mean? I already gave him my number.
Oh, yeah.
My number 4, I'll tell you again, it was Among Us.
What's
important game.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is a long overdue remake and one of the most fun games of this year. You know it. I know it. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2. This game rules. It's both a nostalgic blast from the past and a refined modern skateboarding game in one. You get all the old muscle memory feelings of playing all these classic levels, but they incorporate mechanics from across the series, and they also just kind of refine the challenge to the point where this just feels like a fresh new game in a lot of ways. And, the amount of like collectibles and customization options in the game are plentiful to keep you coming back in. The ability to play on parks created by other players is it's a treasure trove. I mean, you get some crap mixed in there, but I played this one game that was like it was a roller coaster designed exclusively off of grind rail like attachments. And so like as long as you got on it at the right level, you were just grinding across and then going up and up and up and up. They like designed everything about it perfectly. So yeah, this is a game that like you can get just hours of fun out of. And the soundtrack, both the classic hits from the previous games and the new additions from more modern bands, it's just terrific. Like Tony Hawk 1+2, a very polished and well put together retro package. It's priced right too. It's not a full $60. This is a classic game reinvented and priced to say this is a remake. Here you go. So
can I just say too, like over the past like 2-3 years, we've had a really good set of remaked games, right? We've had Resident Evil 2, we had the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, we had Resident Evil 3, we had Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, right? Like we had Spyro. Like we had all these games that were remade and done right. Like I'm Final Fantasy 7, right? Like that's like we had all these games remade but done right. None of that remastered bullcrap anymore. Like this is like from the ground up. We're re-envisioning it, making it the way that you wanted it to be, the way that you remember it being, right? And I think Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, it was awesome. It made, and going at the beginning of the episode, I talked about a game that made you feel like you were 10 years old again, right? And that's exactly what this game did.
Right. I agree with you completely. I think, the world of preserving video games is still very messy, but if efforts like these are going to be the way that gamers get to experience classic titles and things like that, I'm all for it, because this is just a great way to handle it. So, yes. I 100% agree. Tony Hawk rules. You definitely should play it.
Yes. And Josh, you should listen to our episode about Tony Hawk Pro Skater too.
Yeah, we did an episode. Not only did we cover Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, the original game, we also covered the 2020 documentary, Pretending I'm Superman, which is about the history of the Tony Hawk video games in general. So that episode, available on YouTube and all the podcast apps. It's great. Josh, number 3. Do it. Do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, break out your pitchforks. Number 3 is Animal Crossing New Horizons.
3! 3!
Yes.
Unsubscribing. I'm unsubscribing.
Animal Crossing New Horizons is number 3, and it was, these top 3 was the most difficult.
Oh, what? Because it wasn't on PlayStation 5? So it's only number 3.
No, Animal Crossing. So let me we're losing people left and right, Tom. We're losing people left and right. No,
you done screwed up, Josh. Go ahead.
So, okay. This is my first Animal Crossing game. And I put a lot of time into this game. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but I drank the Kool-Aid along with everybody else on March 20th. Well, actually, on March 20th, I bought Doom Eternal. Okay, so like 2 weeks after I beat Doom Eternal, I bought Animal Crossing for myself. But that day, I also bought it for my wife. And
your wife?
She loved it. She was enjoying it and stuff like that. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, I was really confused because I didn't understand how Animal Crossing worked. And then I got into it and I started playing it, and it got to a thing like we would wake up in the morning, we would get our coffee, we would go sit down, we would check our turnip prices, we would see what's in stock at our stores, we would go to different stores and stuff like that. And I started to love this game. And I was like, man, like, I really like this game. This game came out at the perfect time, and that's something that, we've talked about so many times on this podcast. But over time, I started to just kind of stop going to my island and started to fade out, right? And I went back for my birthday in September, and that was the last time I've been on my island. And I know that there has been changes and there has been stuff that happened, but I think that there's some quality of life stuff that should have been fixed a while ago that still aren't fixed. And it's just more of the same anymore. And it got kind of stale, same way that you play The Sims for a while and that kind of gets stale. And that's why it didn't make my top 2. But it is a well-respected number 3, and it is a game that I never expected to enjoy as much as I did.
Well, you're wrong. I get it. The quality of life problems in Animal Crossing are undeniable. There's
Let me buy more than one item at the shop, okay? Let me buy more than one t-shirt at the shop.
I mean, you can do that. I think what you mean is at once. You know.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it. Yes, a cart. Yes. We'll get into it. Spoilers. We'll get into it. I don't want to talk about it all right now. But all right, I get it. Yes, there are quality of life things, and yes, if you're a certain kind of gamer, maybe there's not enough to hook you to stay every single day. I'm not gonna say I've played it every day of the year, but I get it. I get it. It's easy to fall off, so that's fine, I guess.
You're number 2, Tom. I'm sorry.
My number 2 is technically the best game of the year. I'm wading into territory right now where I'm making a distinction between best and favorite. You know, like the best movie that was released in 2007 is There Will Be Blood. But my favorite movie from 2007 is The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. You know, there's respecting art and then just admitting what you want. Okay?
Yeah, and it's the thing. Like, there always is going to be that. Like, that's the thing. Like, the Marvel movies, right? The best Marvel movie is Winter Soldier. My favorite is probably Thor Ragnarok. Right? Like,
right. I get you completely. Yeah. So, the best game of the year is Hades. This is my first roguelike game ever. And I've got to say, I really hope other roguelikes are like Hades.
They're not. They're not.
Well, then I gotta admit, this is
you got into the right one.
All right. Yes, Hades is such a blast, and what I think saves it from just devolving into a generic hack and slash dungeon crawler is the incredible world and characters they build around it. And it's what I was saying earlier about, you know, not going too crazy with lore, but having enough of it to keep you interested. The central gimmick of the game is you play the son of Hades, and you're trying to escape the underworld and join the gods on Olympus because you hate your dad. And your dad has this real passive-aggressive relationship towards you. Like, they paint Hades as this kind of deadbeat dad bureaucrat who's just so obsessed with his job that he kind of honestly doesn't love his son. And the gimmick of the procedurally generated levels is also built into the lore. It's the underworld is constantly being rearranged because Hades does it to prevent souls from escaping. So there's already a built-in perfectly good reason for why you're always going through random mazes and things like that, because Hades is just like, yeah, I don't want anyone to escape. And the combat is fun. It's very fast-paced. Like, the levels and individual rooms never last so long that you get sick of them. And if you die, I mean, I know this is kind of Hades. Let's see. I'm going to read a comment in a second. But if you die, I'm never frustrated, because when you get killed, you get sent back to like the kind of palace of the Hades family, the House of Hades, they call it, and you get to interact with all the unique characters that populate it, and you can spend loot on additions to the house. And that opens up new characters and new opportunities. So, like, dying is like a welcome reward, because it's like, oh, I could take everything I got and go back and get some cool stuff. So, and it's got a great sense of humor. This is like really well written, almost like Douglas Adams or Terry Pratchett kind of like witty. I don't know if it's a British game. Like, all the voice actors talk with like a hint of a British accent, and it's just got that tone to it. I just want to hop into the chat here. Hades was my first roguelike, and I enjoyed it much more than I thought. Like, really enjoyed enough that it might be in my top 5. And awesome!
He says top 5 ever.
Ever of all your whole life. That's pretty dang cool. It's a good friend of the show, good friend of IRL, also longtime friend. Great to see you. Great to see you, and thank you so much for watching. But yes, overall, Hades, immaculately crafted, well written, well designed, like super thoughtful in every way. And I'm not even done with it, but I mean, unless this has just a disgustingly obnoxious and terrible like final twist or something, it's just terrific.
No, what I like about it is the way that you're talking about this is how I felt going into the Souls games this year, right? Okay. I've dabbled every now and then here into the Souls games, but I never sat down to appreciate or enjoy them. And when I finally did, it was like my eyes were like the world was open. I was like Neo in the end of the first Matrix movie, where all he could see is the Matrix, and I was like, I know kung fu, right? Like that's it was awesome, right? And from what I've played of Hades, I'm probably about halfway through my playthrough of it as well.
Okay.
It is the most enjoyable roguelike game. I've dabbled in Enter the Gungeon. I've played Dead Cells, and I played a couple other roguelites too, and I just couldn't get into them, and they weren't as enjoyable. And then I entered Hades, and the world, the characters, they're so enjoyable, and I love all the gods. Like there's sometimes there's particular gods that you want to go to because you just like the chemistry that you have with them, or you like the perks that they also have as well. But you don't want to play favorites if you have two of them, because they'll turn against you.
It's so well designed. I love it.
Is very well. Like, and you can see why it was nominated for Game of the Year. Like the same way that a couple years ago, Celeste was nominated for Game of the Year. You know what I mean? Like these are indie games that are coming out of nowhere. And this was Super Giant, right? Or Super Massive that did
Super Giant,
yeah. Who did Bastion, if I'm not mistaken. Which you get little hints of that too. Like as you're doing stuff, like there's commentating about the world going through, and like. Yeah, I 100% approve of your number two.
Friend of the show, and I know subscriber Dolph, Bastion's his favorite game of all time, so I know that he was very hyped to get into Hades, and I was like texting, like, start it now, like, do it.
And Resistor as well.
Oh yes, Dr. Leverlove, we had a good long conversation about Resistor. I meant to look into getting into that with you. Okay,
so, my number two.
You're number two.
I said on number 3, get the pitchforks out. Right? I said that.
You did.
Keep them out, people.
Well, I gotta go to the garage. So I mean, can I get up? Can I?
Yeah. Number 2, ladies and gentlemen, is The Last of Us 2. Right?
Oh, see, and I don't care, but go ahead.
we know this is a hot topic, right? Head on over to the mall, get yourself some hot topics, but. Yeah, it's a callback to an old joke on our old podcast.
Yes, it is. But go ahead.
It is a masterpiece in storytelling. Everything, and I refrained from talking about this game all year every time that we brought it up. When we did our episode on the first Last of Us, I had to bite my tongue the entire time talking about what I thought of this game. And it was a game that the last time that this happened, I would say, was Bioshock Infinite, where I finished the game and I needed to talk to somebody about it who've experienced the same thing that I did, because it was like one of those, like, what just happened? Like, what do you think of it? What is your thoughts? Whose side are you on this thing? Like, what's going on? Like, there's such a split in this game. And when Bioshock Infinite came out, it was once the twist at the end happened, you were like, what the hell is going on? And you immediately needed to talk to somebody about it, right? The problem is the world gets hint and whiffs of spoilers, but it's not what they think it is unless they actually played the game and, they're trying to jam this stuff down your throat and they're trying to do this. No, enjoy the game for what it is. Who gives a crap about political agenda? Who gives a crap about any type of agenda inside the game? Enjoy the game for what it is. It is an amazing revenge story, right? Where the first game, I think they say the first game is about loss. This one's about revenge, right? And it is a wonderful revenge story that you don't feel right doing it. Right? Like it, and it's, I don't want to spoil anything for this game because you need to experience it yourself, Tom. And I think once you do, I think a lot of your gripes about the first game are going to be much better. Right? Oh man, my mind's going all over the place for this because it is great. Like, yes, there is the Naughty Dog, UI and gameplay that people don't like, but I've experienced so many Naughty Dog games. I've experienced so many Naughty Dog games, though, that it's one of those things that I understand. But you can remap your controls, so take it however you would like it. Okay. There is some of the best horror in this game. There is a part where you are trying to cross a bridge, right? and your character is freaking out, and like my palms were getting sweaty, and I felt the terror in the acting of the character itself, that there's a reason she won best performance in a video game for that one scene alone, right? We talk about a couple years ago for Hellblade. The performance in Hellblade is one of the best video game performances ever. And for Abby in this game, some of that is the same exact feeling that I got. I believed her fear. I believed her terror. I believed the character that she was portraying. I think The Last of Us 2 is the second best video game of 2020.
Man, after all that praise and elaboration, I really am curious what your number one could or would be. I'm actually trying to think of what I remember you raving about this year. But I don't have any dogs in this fight. I will just tell you that when I get to play it, I hope I enjoy it as much as you did. And all I'll say about what I know from the fan reaction to it is just that, yes, a lot of people were putting stock in perceptions, in trailers, and in context-free spoilers, and assuming they knew everything. I, as like a film fan, see that happen a lot. People will jump on things and overreact to something before really experiencing it, and then, it taints the actual product itself. So I'm just going to be patient and wait to see what I get out of it.
There's only one time that's ever came true, and that's X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Well, I mean, sometimes you can tell a stinker when it's coming, but But yeah, if you in the chat have any strong Last of Us Part 2 opinions, please feel free to fire off. We're very happy to
spoiler free, please.
Spoiler free, yes. Please don't ruin the game for anybody. But if you're passionate enough about it, go for it. Go for it. All right, Josh. I guess
what's your number one, Tom?
Tell you my number one game.
I think we all know what it is.
We all know what it is because of how viscerally reacted. Look, it's not the most immaculately crafted, perfectly playable game of the year, but I don't think any game encapsulated 2020 more than Animal Crossing New Horizon. And it's just one of those instances where you have to kind of acknowledge historical significance. This is literally going to be, like, for many gamers, a generational marker of a game. You're either a pre New Horizons or a post New Horizons gamer. This is a game that touched casual and hardcore fans alike. It came out at the most fortuitous time a game like this could ever have come out. A lifestyle simulator hitting right when life itself seemed to kind of just come to a crawl. This is a game that, not only myself, but a lot of people I know who aren't necessarily into video games looked at and went, that looks like something I need in my life right now. Yep. Unlike you, I got it from day one. For years, and even in the first 2 weeks, you made a lot of jokes of I don't want to play Harvest Moon, I don't want to play The Sims. And, I'm glad you've come to find that it's technically nothing like those games. Because it doesn't set those hard and fast goals. This one, more than any Animal Crossing, is literally about building your own experience and tailoring it to what you want. And I got that myself. My island is designed to, a way that I see fit and comfortable and logical in my head. This is a game about this is a true kind of gaming personality test. You visit someone's island and it's kind of I can tell a lot about this person by how they've designed things, about where they've put things, what kind of villagers they're into. And that kind of creativity and expression, I think, was really valuable this year. And the connectivity, it's not perfect. I think a lot of the online connection services are a bit janky, the friend codes, the way you have to add people, things like that. It's Nintendo at its worst, but when it works and you get through all the crap, pointed example, we brought this up on the show before, but we were able to throw, your wife, producer Becca, a surprise birthday party in this game because we were separated and we couldn't visit each other due to health reasons. There are thousands of people around the world who had graduations, birthday parties. In some cases I've even seen online, weddings, either joke weddings or real weddings, because that's what this game let you do. And, if Nintendo didn't know about COVID, it's hard to assume that they didn't just know it was coming for delaying this game. But no, right. For real, jokes aside, this is such an important game. It's such a fun game. Does it control perfectly? No. There's a little bit too much menu hopping. There's a little too little focus on, making it clear when items are about to break, making it clear what you can and can't buy in large or small portions, things like that. Like little inconveniences that really get under your skin when you play it long enough. But I think that what does works like gangbusters. I think that the seasonal events that they've been adding have all been super charming. Like, we got back into it because of how cool the Halloween event was. Turkey Day was a lot of fun. I have to admit, I missed Christmas Toy Day, their version of it, just because I was so busy with my own holiday season. Oh, here we go. Gooch, let's see. So, producer Becca in the chat, just Animal Crossing gave us a reason to smile in 2020. Pass the time, wholesome and enjoyable when the world was anything but. Absolutely, that is 100% true in my opinion. And then we got Goochall here. Animal Crossing was bought by Facebook to replace Farmville in 2021. Goochall, this joke gets more and more unfunny the more this horse has been beaten so hard it's basically bone at this point. This is a bad bit.
Oh my god! I love it.
Josh, what do you have anything you'd like to add to just all my praise?
No, like I said, Animal Crossing came out in a perfect time, and it will always be known for being the perfect game at the right time. Right? I mean, I praised it. I gave it number 3 on my list. Right? Like there were games that were better than it on, and you even said that too. Right? Like you said, it's not a perfect game, and it's not. I mean, it's very hard to find a game that's perfect unless you catch our episode where we talk about the most perfect games ever made. But yeah, I mean, I give it kudos, and it was, you know, what, Nintendo's second most profitable game ever, like, of the Switch.
Next to Mario Kart 8.
Next to Mario Kart 8. I would not be
surprised. Yeah, I would not be surprised though if it eventually surpasses Mario Kart 8.
Yeah. So but with your number 1, Tom, comes my number 1.
All right.
And this
what PlayStation 5 game is your number 1?
Well, I mean, there's so many to choose from right now. No,
Mm-hmm.
I was debating about this, and you know, we got 2 of the biggest games. We had Fall Guys and we had Cyberpunk 2077. Right?
Wait,
what game stands out amongst the crowd in this? Right?
One of these things is not like the other.
And ladies and gentlemen, the number 1 game of 2020 in my eyes, the most beautiful game, the most amazing soundtrack of a game, the most time I've put probably into a game this whole year. Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Coming in number 1 from good old Microsoft themselves, Moon Studios. I even like, okay, so listen, that game came out in the first 48 hours. I put 32 hours into that game.
I need you to repeat that fact though, but can I just say,
okay, yeah,
damn you for that setup, because I legitimately is like, is he gonna sit here and make me go on a Cyberpunk rant? All right, go ahead. How many hours did you put into it, Josh?
In the first 48 hours, I put 32 hours into that game. Right?
That's impressive. You don't.
I didn't. Right? And I'm so close. I was so close that day to 1K'ing, I guess they call it, getting every achievement in that game. The game is beautiful. The story is just, there's parts in that story where you hate a character and then you feel so much for a character. There's a part where Becca was watching it and something happens to a character that you did not see coming, and you think Ori is a very family fun game, and then they just go and maybe murder a child in the game. We don't know yet. You find out for yourself. And it is breathtaking. It is Metroidvania at its finest. The game improved on everything of the first Ori, and the action set pieces in this game, how smooth the graphics are, the art style to it, the characters are all so lovable, the world is so enjoyable, the mechanics, and it's so pixel perfect platforming. Like, it is wonderful. It is fantastic. And if for the love of God you have Game Pass, get it. Download it. It is the best deal in gaming, and this is the best game of 2020.
You know, I feel really foolish not realizing that probably was going to be on your list, because I know how big of a fan you were about Ori and the Blind Forest. So, of course, the sequel would have been on your list. Look at Josh putting an Xbox exclusive game up at his #1 of the year. Well, not technically, I believe it's on the eShop, but yes, the Microsoft Studio original. This is a game that I kind of feel a little bit bad about forgetting, because it came out very earlier in the year and just kind of seemed to, for my radar, fall off. But that's really cool to hear that the sequel measured up to the first game in every way. I am glad that you got to continue with this character in this world that, you know, you've told me you love so much. And I hope to get into it one day. Hopefully maybe by the end of 2020, I'll be including this, or not the end of 2020. Hopefully by the end of 2021, I will be including this on my best games of the past. But
one awesome thing too is, like, listen, like, we had a great year of games. There's a lot of games that didn't make our list, right? Like, we had Final Fantasy VII Remake come out this year. Like, how crazy is that, right? We had the hold on, we got a little bit of a freeze up here. All right. We had the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We had Resident Evil 3. We had, you know, Cyberpunk finally released, kind of, and then it didn't release again. We had Fall Guys. You know, we had so many great titles come out this year, and so many just loving and endearing games. And I'm very pleased to put the Ori on the top of the list, because I don't think Microsoft gets a lot of rep when it comes to their games and their first party titles. I mean, yes, it's out on Nintendo, but we all know Ori for being a Microsoft title, right? But Ori and the Will of the Wisp did something that, you know, a lot of things it's really difficult for them to do. And it's to take a game that didn't need a sequel, or take a movie that didn't need a sequel, and give a sequel that delivers, right? We didn't need a sequel to Terminator 2, but instead we got the greatest movie of all time, right?
Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines.
No, sorry.
We didn't the greatest movie of all time. You guys heard it here. You heard it first.
We didn't need a sequel to the first Terminator.
Talk to the Hand, Rise of the Machines is the greatest cinematic achievement of all time.
But the same thing with, you know, Alien, right? Alien, we didn't need a sequel to Alien. We got that, right? We didn't need a sequel to A New Hope, but we got Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yep, we didn't need a sequel to The Force Awakens, but we got The Last Jedi, another great sequel.
See, no, that's the opposite.
But yes, Josh, I agree with you completely. Sometimes sequels are just so great, even when they're not expected, and I'm glad that a great sequel managed to top your list this year. That's great. All right, so as we said, if you had any particular favorites in 2020, please share them with us, like in the chat before we round out here. But this episode is also going to be reposted on both our podcast feed and our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel will be kind of condensed with clips. But where can you find all these things? Well, first on YouTube, if you search A Cast of the Past, you can find us via our lovely logo. It's the Triflux capacitor. If you look, like, you know, right up top, it's on top of that building there in the background in our lovely little cityscape. But yes, we have YouTube versions of this show. We have other great little pieces of content like Jaeger's Retro Review, where Josh goes over classic games in 3 minutes or less. And then we're also available in your ears on every podcast platform imaginable. Josh, tell us where they can listen to us.
So you can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, Audio Boom, Amazon, anywhere you can find audio podcast. We are there. Don't worry. We've tried to find one that we're not on. And guess what? You can't. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
Bombarding everywhere.
But if you like this, don't forget video content. Where's video content available at, Tom?
Twitch.tv/cast to the past. We stream 6 days a week in alternating shifts. I promise I'm going to get on Persona 4 Golden. It's just been a while. I still have to design the frame for the actual stream. Josh, what are you going to be streaming next? What's your next dedicated project?
I'm still continuing playing The Legend of Zelda 2. on Twitch right now, and I will be coming back, I believe, tomorrow night to play that some more. That is going to be my first episode of season 2 of Jaeger's Retro Review. So come on over,
All right.
enjoy it with me as we're going through, because man, have we been having one hell of a time with that game.
Right.
Where is it going to land on the list of best Zelda games? I don't know. Wait, I'm sorry. To quote Tom Hardy in Spider-Man, or no, in Venom. I don't know.
Classic line. This has been a great episode. Thank you everyone who came out and hung out in the chat. I had a blast with this. And I guess, Josh, until next time, what are we going to do, Josh?
Oh, until next time, we'll see you in the future. Well, that's all the time that we can spend in the past, so thanks for listening. Subscribe to A Cast of the Past on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And stay up to date with A Cast of the Past by making sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There you can be the first to know when new episodes drop, as well as joining in on discussions on all things gaming. And until next time, we'll see you in the future.